Decentralize と逃げろ。誰でも音できる。誰でもスキルを稼げる。ガバナンスまである。中集権のメディアはもう終わりだ。
真相から立ち上るインクと真実がぶつかる。リバヤさんニュース。
My side, it doesn't seem like the intro video is working. Just a second. Let me try it from another place. If you're already tuning in, guys, what's up? Let me just try this from another angle.
それはレバヤさんニュースだ。デセントライズと逃げろ。誰でも音できる。誰でもスキルを稼げる。ガバナンスまである。中集権のメディアはもう終わりだ。
真相から立ち上るインクと真実がぶつかる。リバヤさんニュース。開かれ海嘘はない。読んで書いて氷結しろ。力はみんなのもの。いい霞をたたえろ。ニュースは君のものだ。
レバヤさんニュース。レバヤさんニュース。
What's up, everyone? DAdvisoor here, Leviathan News, and we're on another episode of the Vaults Report with Tyler from vaults.fyi. What's up, sir? How are you? Thank you for
What's
joining.
up, everybody? Good to be here again. Doing great today. How are you?
I'm good, thank God. And nice to see you, man. We wanted to do it on Thursday, actually, but didn't get to it. It was too late and I was too tired, to be honest, on my side. But thankfully, here we are. And man, you've actually prepared a lot of cool stuff for us to talk about from your like new. I'll just remind folks about like the idea behind the show. That you guys have started this new Telegram channel a few weeks ago, basically covering some vaults and like sharing how they work and what can someone get when they like use them, and how's the yield actually earned, and where does the yield actually come from, as they say. So shout out to Kaimi, first of all, your co-founder, together with Ryan, for like starting such a great Telegram channel. And shout out to you, of course, for doing this show with me and try to bring the information to the audience in a video form as well. And much respect, man, for like the stuff that you've prepared. I'm actually looking forward to get into it. How are things on your side? Other than that, by the way, as we let some people join the stream, guys, of course, share the stream with whoever you can. Tell us if you're watching from YouTube or X. Follow the vaults.fyi X account, and Tyler, if you can find him. It's not that simple, but it's 0x7477. That's the code to find Tyler on X. And okay, just give us like a short preview, first of all, Tyler, of what you have for us.
Yeah, happy to. I was gonna say too, as people join, drop us a message too, whether it's in the chat here or hit us on Twitter or in the live stream chat. Always happy to just kind of riff on anything that people want to talk about with regards to yields and DeFi.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, A lot happened in the past week. If you're in Kaime's channel, I guess start with the disclaimer that that's my co-founder Kaime's channel. It's not exactly the vaults.fyi channel, but he's preparing a lot of the things there using the Vaults app data. And there's some spicy stuff there, and I think it's kind of good material to start with for us. The things I prepared to chat about are, one, just kind of generally like what the yields look like, what's moving in the past week, kind of where the market's going. Two, a lot more money's flowing into Sky. Like we put a tweet out from the Vaults account the other day that shows Sky's launched new products on Morpho. And more importantly, even though it's just kind of boring, like their main product, sUSDS, Savings USDS, is growing a ton. It's like a lot of money's flowing from Aave and other places into that product. Second thing, or third thing, I guess, to chat about is, some of the like more interesting pockets where you can find some decent yields right now. One that I saw and wanted to bring up was there's a stablecoin called USDG. I hardly see anybody talk about on Twitter. It's a stablecoin from Paxos, a big regulated stablecoin, kind of like USDC. Last week it was earning 8% on Aave, so a lot more than what you get on USDC. And just wanted to kind of show that to people because I think it's kind of lurked behind the scenes. 3, talk about Aave in general, I think, because there's a lot going on there. 4, I'm getting my numbers mixed up. The 4th topic, Aave, a lot of money's flowed out recently. I think there have been a lot of stories like last week, Thursday, when we were going to chat, someone made a swap on Aave and lost like $50 million.
Wow. That is horrifying, man.
Yeah. So hopefully,
but I actually heard the version that it's people claim that it's someone doing it on purpose to like wash trade or whatever. So if you can actually elaborate on that, I'm also curious about that.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Because on one hand, it's like, oh, what a mistake! How can it be? And on the other hand, like you have 50 million on Aave, you're probably very savvy,
And you're moving on your phone. That's crazy.
But who knows? Honestly, like I honestly have no idea. And until I saw this claim that it's done on purpose, I was like, oh my God, like that's the worst trade ever, man, ever. Money has been the money has evaporated, basically.
Well, yeah, a couple lucky people, builders and solvers in the Ethereum supply chain made a lot of money off of that.
Oh my God. I mean, okay, at some point, if you can find the time, walk us through it as well. I'm actually very curious. If you can explain that kind of stuff to me, how it works, I'm actually very curious.
Let's talk about it. That's a fun one.
Okay, what do you want to start? Take us over there, and if you don't mind, I'm going to put you on the big screen. And feel free to, of course, share the screen if you want to show stuff. I will pop it up as well.
I'm going to share our vaults.fyi app.
Of course. Remind people the address, by the way.
Yep. So I am Tyler from vaults.fyi, and if you want to get to our app, pretty simple. Go to vaults.fyi, vaults.fyi.
By the way, I saw that you guys crossed 1,000 volts the other day.
Yep. So if you see here, on the front page of the app, 1,008 vaults that are available here right now.
Nice.
Search for, there's like 20 different networks that we cover. I think around 100 assets that you can find yield on, 75 protocols. So, every day we're adding more. Let us know if there's something that you like using as a DeFi user and you don't see it here. We're consistently taking user requests and adding more and more. But yeah, past 1,000 now, and if you're a dev or, kind of doing more with this, there's even more vaults that we have in our backend that we don't show here. So we've got close to 3,000 actually in our system.
Oh,
But a
wow.
bunch of those are ones that are like, we only show the things that are whitelisted on Morpho, on Euler, etc., like the only ones that you see on their app. So a bunch of these kind of unverified vaults or ones that are like more private, we don't show them in the app, but we've got data on those too.
Very cool, man. Much respect. That's a lot of data, let me tell you.
It's a lot. It's that's our bread and butter. There's a lot of infrastructure work that goes into that.
By the way, I will just remind people that for those who want to learn a bit about how it's done and the story behind it, they can find our original interview, you and I, from about a month ago or so, a few weeks ago. But first of all, let's see what Tyler has in store for us this week with some of the fresh info that you guys have been aggregating.
Yeah, I'm gonna flip around. So I saw like what you put on the preview for this live stream. You showed this channel, which is our analytics page, and always a good place to start. Just like generally, what's the market look like? And you can see here this is our benchmark rate, which is just taking a weighted average of the biggest vaults in DeFi. And you can see that rates just keep going lower. Like end of last year, this benchmark rate was 4 or 5%. Now it's under 3%. So less than you get on US Treasury bills if you're comparing it to the TradFi space, which generally makes doing things on chain a little less attractive. Like, why have your money parked on chain when you could be getting more money just by having it sit in like the TradFi risk-free rate? So I would say to everyone out there, like, kind of check your options, make sure if you're putting money on chain into DeFi that it's something that gives you good returns and, kind of compensates you for the risk you're taking. And I think that's a good starting point to start looking at yields here. But yeah, ETH staking rate still, 2.5%, and this USD benchmark just keeps going down, 3%, now at 2.87 today. And
is that when you see this kind of stat, by the way, as someone like experienced, like what do you think? Like, is it a lot? Is it not? Like, good, bad? Like, does such a number in general tell you anything?
Yeah, I mean, it tells me a few things. Like, we don't show the data here, but one thing to keep in mind here is there's just more stable coins floating around, like looking for yield. So it's kind of a supply and demand thing. I think total stable coins, let me pull up do you know that number off the top of your head? How many stable coins are out there now?
I'm assuming that it's still around 300 and something billion.
Yep, that's right. I just pulled up DeFi Llama, 316 billion stable coins. And, I was saying last year rates were like 5-6% in September. That time there's like 280 billion in stable coins. We've added another 30 billion since then, grown like 10%. So that's one of these things. It's just like any DeFi pool you're looking at, any vault you're looking at, it's the more money it flows into it, it's usually diluting the yield. Like, take Aave, for example, the yield's coming from people borrowing against the collateral that's sitting there, and they're borrowing like the USDC that you're putting into that pool. If there are more stable coins and more USDC floating into that, there have to be more borrowers on the other side too. So just like kind of generally, as there are more stable coins floating around the space, unless there's more and more borrow demand, eventually those yields are kind of gonna drop off. And that's what we're seeing here. And, the other piece of that too is just like when everyone is, has like a good reason to borrow against their Bitcoin or their ETH. That's the main thing that people are doing on Aave, for example, is just like, you can take leverage against your Bitcoin or against your ETH and go long, or maybe you're doing some kind of basis trade. But if you're looking at Athena and there isn't much money to be made on that basis trade right now, and you're looking at crypto prices and they're going down, you're not confident that they're all like going to the moon, then there isn't like as much reason to borrow too. So that's kind of the other piece of this. And my mental model for like why these rates are going down, there's just more supply flowing in, and there's actually less demand on the other side too. There's less reason to be borrowing against these collaterals that and these lending pools are driving this kind of rate.
By the way, Tyler, how much, maybe you said that and I didn't notice, how much money is currently like in vaults? Is there such a stat?
It's, the best way to look at that, I think, is it's something we should add. It's I kind of have to like sum up over here.
Like total vault market cap, I mean.
Yeah, so I would put it around 100 billion. Now, I'm not going to get more precise.
And by the way, this is like only stablecoin money in vaults, or is it like vaults all over like crypto assets, you mean?
So actually, you know what? I think that 100 billion is going to be closer like across all crypto assets, at least that we're showing. Stablecoins is probably about half of that or so. I mean, let's just take a
I'd
quick
actually
look
be
at it.
very curious to have both of these stats, like to see how much general like crypto money is in vaults, mostly ETH, but like whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And stable coins separately for sure, like with these like, I don't know, like pie charts of like, what is the stable coin mostly used on vaults and how much is it? It's actually very interesting. I saw similar stats by a presentation made by Lucius, the Frankencoin inventor. He's disclosure, I'm a part of the Frankencoin Association team. Thankfully, I'm working with them on some in-house content and stuff. And he had this keynote that he had in the beginning of March in the Web3 Banking Symposium in Zurich. So he presented a lot of stats on DeFi in general, and one of them was the stablecoin stuff, like the 300 and something billion and all that, but also like lending stats and like how much money is currently used in DeFi lending. I think it was around 40 billion what he showed. So that kind of stuff really is also, it's fascinating to look at stats this way and all that.
Yep, I am taking notes on my side for like engineering things to build. I think that's a great idea. But
it will actually be interesting to just realize how big vaults are, because I'm guessing that vaults are bigger than lending in DeFi, but again, it's a hunch. Well, I have no actual idea.
The other piece is, and my co-founder Ryan, I think, is going to publish a piece on this in the next couple of days. Just like, what is the term vaults? What does it mean? I think depending on who you ask, they'll give you something different. When we started vaults.fyi, we kind of started to track this like specific standard 4626 tokens that like some of the pools you see here, they use that type of contract, and that's a vault. But over time, people have just called like everything vaults. Some of them are like pure smart contracts that don't have many restrictions. It's kind of like, they're trustless, they're permissionless. Some other ones, it's like you have to do KYC to get into the vault. And then once your funds are there, like there's a manager who can move your funds off chain and do like all kinds of things with them. And then like, is Lido staking, are these staking pools, are they vaults too? Like if you define a vault as just a contract that you put money in and there's some like programmatic rules to that, then sure, staking's a vault, but it's I think it depends on what your definition is of that.
Yeah, it's a philosophical discussion on what qualifies as a vault, huh?
Yeah. And now I will say, if you're at vaults.fyi, we started as purists, and now we're kind of, we give people what they want to see. So we say we've got 1,000 vaults, and we kind of show everything that's like, you put a single asset in, a USD stablecoin, a Euro stablecoin, ETH, and then you're getting more in ETH terms, or like the same asset you put in, you're generating yield in those same terms, and we'll call that a vault.
Yeah, I can relate to like the wider argument probably says that like if it's earning yield, it's a vault.
Yeah, I think that's a fair case, but I understand that purists might say, well, only certain shapes.
Only if the yield is paid externally, only if the yield is paid like in stable coins, only if it's a stable coin as an app, blah blah blah.
Yep.
It really is infinite. Wow, looking forward to see what Ryan comes up with then about that article.
Yeah, and I think some of that will make its way into our app too. And like a point that I always want to hammer home too is, I think it started out in DeFi as more of a purist. Like, I'm not going to touch anything that has some way where I can get rogged, where like I'm only going to put into vaults that like can't be upgraded, and that like money can't move off chain, and it's all like within this constrained set of opportunities. That's like one flavor of a vault. I think as time goes on, we're seeing more, and we talked about this in past episodes too, we're seeing like more TradFi type stuff make its way on chain. We're seeing vaults that like allocate to the best yields across different chains and across exchanges and these different things. And like, those have their place. I think kind of the like what Ryan's piece is going to cover, and what we'll try to show more in our app, is like understanding which vaults are like very rules based, like kind of trustless, like there's only a limited set of things that can happen within that vault, versus one where you're handing money to a manager, and they might be a regulated manager, and you might do KYC to get into that vault, but then they can kind of take your money like anywhere. Like, they can move it off chain, they can move it into exchanges, they can move it into more traditional finance type funds and things like that. And people want both. And I think it's just like more important to understand what you're getting into, and that's what we're trying to help people navigate.
Yeah, I actually think that's one of the things I really enjoyed with Kaimi's Telegram group there. The fact that he does tell you, okay, like this specific thing, you're right, it's called a vault, but what actually happens behind the scenes is X, Y, Z. So it gives you a much better, like as a user, it gives you a much better like perspective on the kind of risk that you're taking, whether it's a custodial risk, whether it's a smart contract risk, whether like what kind of strategies is used to make to earn the yield. So it's actually a very useful instrument in exploring and making the decision of whether you want to put your funds somewhere or not.
Good.
So we're starting with the Sky one, by the way.
Yeah. So okay. I think
just before you start, let me do something that I forgot to do in the beginning, and this is a shout out for this week's Squid Pass winners. I've also mentioned them on an earlier stream that I had today with the Alto guys, Jedi and Ben. Shout out to them as well. But we have new winners for the Squid Pass of the week. They won the auction, and let me pop it up on screen and show it. And then I'll let you go to the Sky stuff. There it is. And this week's Squid Pass winners are Rate Hopper. You can find them on X at Rate Hopper AI, the first refinancing protocol for DeFi borrowing markets, built on Base. and you can find the links over there. Let me also pull up their website. Rate Hopper, refinance DeFi debt with AI, hop to better rates instantly. Much respect, guys. Thank you so much for choosing Leviathan News to deliver your message. You can find them on the pinned, as Squid Pass winners, they get the pinned posts on our X and Telegram accounts for the week. So go and check them out on our pinned posts. And guys, thank you for choosing Leviathan News. Appreciate it a lot. All right, take us over there, man. Let's start with Sky. You said like Sky's expansion, yeah?
Yeah.
You're seeing a lot of fun. Basically, you say that you guys are seeing a lot of funds moving to Sky.
Yeah, and I'll share the screen again, and I'll show you why.
Cool.
Is that on screen yet?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
All good. So I mean, look, like we're filtering by stable coins here, and if you look at the top rates, or I mean, just the biggest vaults out there for stable coins, Sky's the biggest one now, and that keeps growing. And the easy reason is that it's earning 3.75% yield on the Sky savings rate versus the competitors out there for kind of biggest vaults and stable coins earning 2% on Aave, even 3.4 less than the Sky savings rate on Athena, which is kind of a different class of risk, 4.3 on Maple, on Syrup, kind of like credit over collateralized lending, but kind of off chain. So again, a different kind of risk. So Sky rates have just like been a lot higher than their competitors, and you can see kind of, let's look over the past 90 days. TVL was at $4.7 billion just 90 days ago. Today it's at 6.2 billion, and that's Sky just looks pretty good if you're kind of just looking at like the biggest proven kind of simple DeFi vaults out there. It continues to kind of outperform some of the peers. And I'll show, like, let's just look at, like, for the past couple years, basically the three biggest vaults in DeFi have been Sky sUSDS, Aave USDT, Aave USDC. And you can see here, let's look at like 30-day APYs over the past year. Historically, they've all been pretty close to each other. And today, Sky savings rate is 2% higher than what's in Aave. And so I think kind of simply, you've just seen a lot of funds that were sitting around. If you're just lending stable coins and you're not like borrowing against them in Aave, it's I'm seeing more of those types of users flow into Sky savings rate as just like kind of the conservative, like easy place to park your capital on chain.
Yeah, and probably like a very useful for entering with size, I'm guessing.
Yeah, exactly. And we talked a few minutes ago about how like as the vaults grow, the yield gets diluted, and it's kind of hard to keep the rates up as like more stable coins come on chain. That's not really the case with USDS, with sUSDS. Now, like where that yield is coming from on Sky, it's actually a bit complicated. Like a lot of that is going into T-bills that Sky holds. Some of it's going into Athena, or at least it was in the past. Some of it's going into Maple. So Sky is actually this big complex system as kind of like, I think it's kind of the on-chain central bank of DeFi. We could probably like do a whole episode about how it works, and we should get someone from their eco, like.
That would actually be a very cool concept. We should do that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah, and I say that too, like, because that's probably one of the things that got me into DeFi in the start in the early days was following MakerDAO, and and DAI, and thought that was a cool concept. So I don't know, I like those guys too, and I think it's worth taking a deep dive into that ecosystem if you find it interesting.
Yeah, end of the day, like the real heavy users, they need size. Like it doesn't impress them if like stuff is being built, whether it's very decentralized or whether it's very like on paper it has a lot of a high percentage of yield or whatever. But it only matters like if you actually have like 9-10 figures or whatever. Like a lot of stuff becomes irrelevant or useless for you, and it's quite impressive to see projects and products who are actually able to serve this kind of size. It's the only way for the ecosystem to truly grow, to be honest.
Yep, 100%. And that's something when you're asking, like, what do I see when I see rates going down over time, like our benchmark rate going lower and lower? Part of that is just like crypto's maturing too. That, it used to take like 10% yields to get people to move money on chain, or 50% APY or whatever. That like in DeFi summer, that's what got people into crypto. Yeah, now it's like people see crypto a little safer, a little bit more accepted. It's like people are willing to put their funds there and keep them there when they're earning 5% or 3%. So that just says something about the space maturing and like getting a bit more boring in some ways, and that's not a bad thing.
A sign of taking over the world, I'd say.
Yep. And the last thing to say with Sky too, like we put out a tweet on this the other day, but Sky, in the past has just been the Sky savings rate was like the only product that you got to put your money in. A few months ago, they launched, these farms too, where you're farming the Spark token or you're farming Chronicle points, which are like their sub-DAOs in their ecosystem that have their own tokens. And then just in the past 3-4 weeks, Sky has actually launched their own markets on their own.
You're talking about this post, by the way?
Yep, exactly.
Let's check it out. Sky recently expanded its product suite. How do you say that word in English? Suite?
Yeah, sweet. You got it.
Sky recently expanded its product suite, launching 5 new vaults on Morpho. With the addition, Sky ecosystem now offers multiple risk return profiles across USDS, USDT, and USDC. As of today, Sky is the 4th largest curator on Morpho. Wow. With nearly 300 million TVL. Yeah, Sky is a meaningful thing. And I like, by the way, this is a great kind of post by you guys. Great job.
Thanks. We try to bring interesting things up. I'll say it there too, because I know we're kind of hyping Sky here, showing things. None of this is like paid posts. We probably should be doing paid posts and monetizing this stuff, but we don't.
Patience.
But we're trying to just capture, some recent developments in the space, and I think that's a real one that like a lot of money's flowed into Sky in the past month or two, and I think it's interesting that they're launching more products and kind of, as the central bank of crypto, I'll call them, like just having these different things on chain that kind of represent the different yields within their eco. And I should say like different risk classes and kind of different allocations of their like central bank funds in crypto.
Sorry, I was muted. Shout out Sky, actually. Shout out Sky. Who would you say is the prototype or the avatar user who would choose Sky? Do you have any thoughts on something like that?
It's a good question. I haven't looked in a while. I mean, well, just like.
Is it like a huge company, or meaning like a huge institution, with a huge treasury that's just looking to park the money in DeFi, but in a very somewhere that they can park with a lot of size, earn a decent yield, be secure.
I mean, just looking like I'll try to answer this with data because that's where my head goes. And it's like, let's look at who has funds in the savings USDS vault today. You see that there's some like a couple massive users. Here's one with 950 million bucks or close to $1 billion.
Hope
$900
he's
million.
not going to switch anything on the Aave interface anytime soon.
Yeah. I mean, the second one is Spark. So that is one of those Sky sub DAOs. So that's kind of like Sky's own money. The first one, it's funded by HTX, formerly, I think that's Huobi, right? So this is either an exchange or it's like a whale. Forget if this is Justin Sun or someone like that. But my mental model is like a lot of the money in like these big vaults that don't earn a lot of yield, but they stay on capital and don't move around a lot. A lot of it is like people like Justin Sun and that just have a ton of money that they've made on chain. Some ETH whales that put money, like they're borrowing against it, or maybe they've just like made money other ways, converted it to stable coins, and they just leave it on chain. And like they're doing risky things with their money too, but some allocation of their funds, they're just sitting, parking in like what they see as kind of the safe yields on crypto. And I think that's a lot of the money that sits in this vault.
That's very cool, actually. Just like you said, Sky is so huge that can do a whole series just on what's going on there. It's really a huge protocol, isn't it?
Yeah, really is.
Cool. What's next on the menu for today, Tyler? What do you have?
Yeah, let's talk about another tweet that we had, and if you want to pull it up, it was about this USDG on Aave, and we covered it at the top of the episode. But let's just look at again. I'll do like let's look at Aave stablecoin yields. So I'll use my filters here. Let's filter by protocol instead just to search. And you look at 30-day yields on Aave. This USDG one is at the top.
I think I found it. Just a second. Let me pull it up.
If we look at 7-day yields, it's come down a little bit since we put this tweet out because I think more money's moved into the vault. Earning 5.3, and that's a lot more than you get for other stable coins in Aave, which USDC earns 2% at the moment. USDT 2% or less.
So stablecoin, let me just read it for those who just are just listening. Stablecoin lending rates remain generally low. USDG, global dollar, by the way, which I'll let you expand in a bit on what exactly is, if you know. USDG is currently, and this is true to March 13th, by the way, 5 days ago. USDG is currently an outlier among top stablecoin yields on Aave. 7.9% APY, the 7-day average, 50 million TVL. First of all, that's a very big yield, I'd say. And can you, first of all, say in a few words, what is USDG, by the way?
Yeah, so USDG, it is a regulated stablecoin. It looks a lot like USDC in terms of just kind of how reserves are managed, what's backing it. And it's USDG is launched by Paxos. So if you
it's a Paxos dollar?
Yep, Paxos dollar. It's going to look similar to PYUSD. I mean, I'm sure there are some small differences there. So do your own research if you want to get really deep into this stuff. But for its most part, this is like a pretty well-established stablecoin that's coming from the same team that's launched PYUSD, that launched BUSD previously, and regulated stablecoin. And so, and similar to Ripple
I'll pop up to
USD
your
too.
I'll pop up to your screen back to your screen.
Yeah.
Show us.
Yep. So, I think that it's just kind of been under the radar because it is a newer stablecoin. And also, I think with USDG, it's one that they launched with some like distribution partners. Like, I'm going to look this up because I don't want to get it wrong. But I believe they launched it with Kraken, Anchorage, Bullish, Robinhood. So it's kind of like a consortium to compete with USDC.
Really?
Yep.
Interesting.
But
And by the way, why do you say that it's something to compete with USDC and not with USDT, for example? Is it because it's like it's also mostly to be like to fit and be compliant within the US? Like, how do you see that exactly? I'm just curious about what made you say that it's specifically a competitor to USDC in your mind.
Yeah, I think it is that just at least those launch partners, they are like US financial institutions, I think are pretty conservative about this stuff. And Tether actually like does play by a lot of regulations these days, but as far as their brand and like how they're viewed, they're kind of their own thing, and not quite a fully regulated stablecoin where like USDC is very by the books, and USDG is too, because it's all these kind of buttoned up TradFi partners that TradFi and at least big crypto company partners that are a part of this thing. So yeah, I see it more as like looking pretty similar to USDC, which also when it launched was a consortium between Circle and Coinbase, not just one company launching it.
It's also a very big stablecoin relatively, not as USDC, of course, but I see it's ranked on DeFi Llama as number 10 on the market cap side of things.
Yep. So like for me, I guess I keep highlighting these things. I know the last episode I talked about some RLUSD yields too and PYUSD yields, because I think as these big companies are launching stable coins, things that they're trying to compete with Tether and USDC, they're trying to get some market share. They're trying to get people to hold those tokens, to move them around. And like a lot of the way that they're trying to incentivize people to start using their stablecoin is just like by paying yield in Aave and Morpho on Euler to try to get that's kind of like their marketing spend for these things. And so if you're a lender and you don't want to take a lot of risk and you want to just kind of collect these subsidies, I think things like USDG on Aave is an attractive thing to look for. Although now it's kind of been found, I think the yields are down a bit, but still, like if you're comfortable holding USDC on Aave for 2%, then you probably should look at Aave, at USDG on Aave and get 5%, get a little bit more.
Yeah, very interesting observation there. Much appreciated. I will say, by the way, that have you heard of Pharos.watch, the new stablecoin dashboard by Token Bryce? He launched it like a few weeks ago.
No.
Actually, I had an interview with him as well about it. Shout out Token Bryce, actually one of my favorite people in the space. Let me pull it up, because according to, he has a whole lot of metrics there about stablecoins. Kind of reminds me of his
Pharos. Yeah, I have seen this
project. So let me just pop it up on screen so people will know what we're talking about. So according to him, by the way, USDG, it tracks the same number, like 1.66 billion, but according to this website, it's actually number 13, not number 10, like it says on DeFi Llama. And I will say that if you guys want some deep, because I'm really fascinated with this whole genre of like, very relevant and exact info, I will say that all these apps that we're talking about here, people can find them very useful. Shout out to the OGs at DeFi Llama, first of all, of course. Xerox not going to make it, Patrick, Scott, and the others. And of course, vaults.fyi, and now Pharos.watch as well for like very elaborate and deep dives into stablecoins. And by the way, I actually had Octav on last week. Are you familiar with Octav.fi?
Yep, we're friends with them. I know the team there.
Yeah, I actually had a lot of fun talking to
Matthew
there. Yeah, exactly. Also was very interesting to discuss about the fact that they actually aggregate in a way all the data from all the different services together and present them in like a very customizable way, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a powerful product that they built too. I like what they've built. Pretty impressive. This Pharos watch is pretty cool too. When you're asking me about USDG, we should have shared this screen. Like if you click on USDG here, it gives a better detail than everything I was kind of explaining. And as you scroll down, it's kind of showing you. It tells you this is Paxos' second act. Here's the backing, government securities.
Token Bryce has actually earned himself the nickname the Mad Stablecoin Scientist, probably for a good reason over there. And he's really taken this whole Claude vibe building onto another level. And he told me that he's building, you can watch it on the episode that I've made with him. He's built Pharos.watch mostly as a tool to compare and to really aggregate all the data, but he actually is building a project called Polaris. And he really believes that the stable coins that they're going to be issuing over there will prove to rank very high with these ranks that protocols gather. You can see that there are like safety scores, for example, for stable coins on the app. This is actually something that really reminds me of what he's been doing with DeFi Scan from the DeFi Collective. Talking about the different vectors and aspects in which a decentralization of a project can be defined. So this is a very similar approach to show a lot of the angles that make a stablecoin safe. So I definitely recommend, if you like stablecoins, you should be checking Pharos.watch as well. And shout out to Bryce. And really appreciated your info here on USDG, by the way. What's next, Tyler?
Yeah, just want to say shout out to Bryce too. That's a very cool tool and something that I will be using next to vaults.fyi.
Amen. Respect already.
Well, the other thing I was going to say, I think we touched on a bit, was Aave, just the other piece of that money flowing into Sky. It means that a lot of money's flowed out of Aave too.
Good point. That money went out there from somewhere, huh?
Yeah, yep. Just money moving one place to another.
Which stablecoins was it there? Like in Aave, what stablecoins was it? If it was stablecoins in order to enter Aave, do you have any stats on that?
Let's look real quick. I'm just doing real time. But, the two biggest pools, USDT and USDC, was at 6.6 billion 90 days ago, now 5.1. So more than $1.5 billion has left this pool, Aave USDT.
Wow.
And then if we look at USDC, maybe a similar story. 4.5 90 days ago, 3.6 today. So, 800, 900 million has moved out of this pool too.
So,
So Aave is still.
together, basically over $2 billion.
Yep.
That you at least say that there's a it's very likely they have actually turned to USDS.
A decent chunk of those, probably so. I'd have to do a bit more of a dive into that.
Yeah, of course, strictly speculation, but I actually really enjoyed that. That was very quick and useful speculation.
Yep.
I'd bet on that.
The one thing I always find just really cool about DeFi on-chain stuff is you can go look at these big whales. You can look at Justin Sun, 7 Siblings is like the big whale that is interacting with Sky, and I think has a lot of money in Aave too. And you can just see what they did, and it's easy to copy trade those guys if you want to.
Yeah, I agree. Like the transparent nature of on-chain finance is really a game changer, and I think that it really what's attract a lot of the capital to go there. It's in a way, I don't know, a fairer game that slowly, slowly, then all at once, I guess, at some point.
Yep.
The money just keeps flowing there. And that's exactly the kind of stuff, I guess, that allows you guys to build stuff like vaults.fyi.
Yep, and just like the abundance of choices out there, number of vaults, number of protocols, number of chains are always popping up.
And the insane amount of data that's basically sitting there out in the open, just waiting for different products to come and make some order into it and make it more accessible.
Exactly.
Like you guys are doing what we just talked about with Pharos Watch, with DeFi Llama, whatever. And also, this is actually a point that was raised when I had a talk with Matthew from Octave. It's so much cheaper today to find this great data very easily and well presented.
Yes,
if you had to go to Nansen a few years ago and pay them a whole lot of money to get some on-chain data, today there are today you can find great data without paying a whole lot of money necessarily. And if you are willing to pay some money, you can probably find insane data very easily.
It's true. It's true. Yeah, I will say, from our team, for anybody out there, it's you mentioned that Token Bryce, he's vibe coding all this amazing stuff on stablecoins. Yeah, if you're good at AI and you can vibe code some stuff and pull data, it's easier than ever. For us, it's that helps us just build things faster and faster on our app and our services. And I think I'm seeing a lot of great teams out there doing amazing work in the analytics space.
Yeah, I agree. Anything else you wanted to show us today, Tyler?
The last topic I had was just I think in the past couple of weeks, Monad and Plasma, those ecosystems, or especially Monad, has grown a lot. I don't have any specific vaults to cover, but I'll share my screen. I mean, I think in general, vaults that we track, there's, if we look at Monad vaults, actually this one isn't growing. This is maybe the biggest one on Monad right now, AUSD, earning 4% on Upshift. USDC.
Do you have an amount what's the total amount of vaults money on Monad? Or is it like the question that I've asked you earlier, that it doesn't aggregate it together?
I have it in my custom tools on our API, but we don't have it here on the site. So I don't have it at my fingertips. I know last week when I kind of pulled some numbers. At launch, Monad had over 100 million in TVL on the yields that we cover. So it's already like among the biggest DeFi ecosystems at launch. I would say just something to watch, like how much of that's going to stay around. I think if you're watching like all these new network launches and L2 launches, oftentimes people are farming a ton at the beginning, and then as those yields kind of go down, you'll see TVL just go down and down and down, like close to zero. I think
right now people are still like getting Monad token, the like MON, the token for parking money there, or is it over with?
I'm actually not sure. I haven't dug deep myself. We're not showing a lot of token rewards here for Monad. So I don't know if those are things that have just gotten turned off or, are not showing up. But I don't know. I'm trying to look that up on my own. But there's definitely been a lot of money in Monad in the past month as their ecosystem went live. It actually looks like that's coming down a lot. And I don't know, I'd be curious to hear someone deeper in. But all of these things, I would say always as a DeFi farmer, it's a good place to look. And, I hope that Monad has more staying power than I think right now. Like I've seen people picking on Unichain, which a few months ago had a lot of incentives tied to it and a lot of DeFi TVL. And today it's like, I think we went from hundreds of millions or maybe dollars on Unichain. Now it's down to like less than $100 million.
Really? Yeah, to be honest, like unless it's for like unsustainable rewards, why would you be there? Like I don't know, like I'm speaking for me. Yeah, I'm not speaking for anyone else, but like I personally, I don't understand why should someone not be on mainnet unless you're really paying him a lot of money to not be on mainnet. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like up until a while ago, I would have understood. Like maybe if you told me, yeah, fees are too high, whatever, all kind of special opportunities or stuff that you can do with very small size. And if you want to come with size, like it doesn't really matter. But I don't know. For many use cases, it seems like. A lot of these L2s and networks, they're not becoming like they're becoming less relevant than before, I'd say. Yep. And the only way to really attract funds is to incentivize in ways that at least I don't know how you do it like sustainably,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure either, and I'm kind of curious what Monad's strategy is. It's not something I've followed closely, and just looking at yields, I'm not seeing a lot of incentivized yield there, so I'm not quite sure like how the money moves through. Looks like a couple of these Euler vaults like have Monad rewards, so it looks like in bits and in small places they have some incentivized yields, but it's not a ton.
By the way, sorry?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say I'm with you too. It's we see, at least with vaults data, like almost all the activities happening on mainnet. Then like Base and Arbitrum both have good ecosystems that have stayed, but it's been really hard for anyone else to have staying power. Plasma, I think, still has a lot of money there, and now rewards are very small, and there's still capital.
Because you mentioned the Plasma earlier, like, can you show us some stuff about Plasma? You have something now?
Yeah, so I think Plasma, I'll share my screen. I mean, I think Plasma has run a pretty good playbook on this, just on building the DeFi ecosystem. Now, like
Plasma, by the way, and just to be sure that I'm talking about the right one, like Plasma is basically in a way like kind of a USDT chain.
Yep. It's I think like some of the investors were Tether team. And that's definitely been their go-to-market, is like working with USDT 0 and, kind of
Shout
meant
out
to be
Lorenzo,
this,
by
like,
the way. I had him on about a month ago as well. Great guy from the USDT 0 team.
cool.
And for example, that's like, it relates to the point I made like a minute ago. If Tether decides to incentivize, they can do it pretty sustainably. You know what I mean? Like, they don't need to invent any token in order to like give it away and attract capital. They are profitable enough that if they want to attract you to put your money somewhere, whether it's Plasma or something or somewhere else, they can probably find some resources to do it, and to just do it with USDT 0, for example.
I think it's a good point. And they haven't even done that on Plasma yet. I mean, all the incentives there have just been like the Plasma token XPL. But you're right. Like, I see Tether from time to time, they run these campaigns that are just like giving some USDT to certain wallets, and certain campaigns that they run with partners, just to, they don't have to make a new token for it. They just like pay people Tether.
Also, in this side of the world, it's much easier to trust stuff when you know that the name behind them is probably Tether, because end of the day, Tether, like, as much as I know many people don't like it, it is the biggest actor by far, and like they do have a lot of power to back whatever they need to back. So you do, in a way, I personally, I don't have any funds on Plasma currently, but, and again, not financial advice, of course, but I wouldn't be too worried if I had funds on Plasma, I guess, at least some, because I would feel that, like, Tether has my back on it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, if you're holding money with a centralized stablecoin, you should be trusting like the team that's running
that you trust,
Yep.
By the way,
I think that's a fair way to look at it.
I have a similar case, I'd argue, not exactly, of course, but in a way, it's also, I think, one of the reasons that Base is very trustworthy, because of Coinbase and basically a strong connection to USDC. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a good analogy. Like, USDC is to Base as USDT 0 is to Plasma. Like an easy way for those teams to build more use cases around those tokens, like low fee payments, kind of experiment with cool apps on top of it. I think maybe we shared some stats on this, but one thing that is interesting is, like, Base has been around longer. I would say it does have a much more organic ecosystem of, there's like many protocols and many different vaults that are kind of, it's a diverse set of options out there that you'll find on vaults.fyi for Base, versus Plasma has done a pretty good job just sustaining activity on that network, sustaining TVL on that network. And it's like just a handful of protocols. Most of it sits in Aave. Almost all of it's in USDT 0 and Athena and a couple select tokens. So it's kind of two different playbooks tackling the same, different go-to-market strategies, kind of going after the same challenge of trying to get adoption.
Base is also like much more of a veteran ecosystem by now. It really emerged as a layer 2 in very different times, where the whole scalability issues of mainnet was in a very different place, I'd say, and many apps had to go to places like Arbitrum Base and others in order have any chance of actually building something. Whereas I actually think that today many projects, they take a different decision, and they tell themselves, yeah, why not just build on mainnet with these costs? Like you used to have to go to layer 2s for a lot of experimentation, which nowadays I think a lot of it is migrating to mainnet because why not? And the liquidity is there.
Liquidity's there, and
it's
I guess
it's
at
much
time-
harder to get liquidity on. Okay, Base is an example for a place that does have a lot of liquidity relatively. Of course, not like on mainnet, but some of the layer 2s, even if they have like incredible tech, they don't have much liquidity, so it's a huge factor for a project. Like Captain Rational often says, like the best tech isn't always the best business.
I think that's very true.
Tyler, before we wrap up, maybe explain to us in a few words the Aave situation from last week, that trade, and what actually happened there. Who actually made money from that trade? And also, if you can explain to me the angle and the perspective, saying that it's someone who did it on purpose as a wash trade, I'm very curious in learning about it.
Yeah, man, what a crazy event. So for those who weren't following last week, and last week is like all over my Twitter feed, my X feed. I think it happened last Thursday. And it was someone had put they had $50 million on their wallet sitting inside Aave, I think an Aave USDT vault. And from Stani, Aave founder, had written a tweet that, this person had swapped $50 million of USDT into, what was it, like $30,000 worth of Aave?
Yeah, I think it was, by the way, a USDT.
A USDT, yep, exactly.
Like
USDT and the Aave vault.
The Aave version of USDT or something like that, right?
Exactly. And in the Aave mobile app, there's a button for like to swap tokens. And
imagine that, man. Imagine swapping 50 million. Like what? Do you know how I feel before I do, like when I send someone, I don't know, a few dollars, you know what I mean? I'm like, I'm checking stuff, but I'm sending him just a tiny amount before to make sure it's really his address and that kind of stuff.
Crazy. So
imagine sending 50 million, like swapping 50 millions and becomes 30. So where did the money actually go? You know what I mean? Like how does such an amount, how does 50 million turn into what, like 35? It was something laughable, you know what I mean?
Yeah, 324.
Can you explain what happens like behind the scenes? Like you said, like some solver took it, like some actors took that money. Whether it's the same person doing it on purpose, or whether it's other people taking advantage of a mistake.
Right.
The money didn't really evaporate. The money went somewhere.
No, it didn't evaporate. Other people made money off of it. So the theory was, or I wouldn't call it a conspiracy theory, but like a decent theory to have was like, was this person just like money laundering? Like maybe they had illicit gains and they couldn't move their funds through another method, so they like kind of purposely looked like they made this bad trade that lost them a bunch of money, and then they like had their friends, or maybe it's them themselves, they like captured it from the other side.
That's actually kind of brilliant.
Processing
it. If that's like actually the case and it's done properly, it's kind of brilliant, I must say.
It would be, but I think I'm skeptical of that. I think it'd take a lot of coordination that isn't really possible today, because I don't think when when the trade went out there, I don't think there's a guarantee that it was going to be like one specific transaction builder, like one entity that got to like process that transaction. There's a bit of competition and like randomness into that. So I don't think, they could put that bad trade out there and like be sure that, their friends or they themselves would capture it. And yeah, you don't want to lose $50 million risking that.
And also, like, from the phone, I don't know, like, it's too good to be true, to be a scam, you know what I mean? And also, I think it makes me think of the metaphor of the dark forest, what you just said. Like, like, people are lurking for these kinds of mistakes all the time with the craziest bots. And if that was true a few years ago, I can only imagine what happens nowadays. So just like you said, how do you actually make sure that you get that money without it actually slipping away? It's insane.
It's nuts. So, all the viewers here, it's like, probably use a hardware wallet, use something where you can't fat finger your trades. Like, don't have a ton of money in your hot wallet on your phone. And use a transaction simulation. Use something like Rabbi or Ambire that will show you the results of your transaction, of your swap. Because part of this was, it's kind of easy in the Aave app to hit the button, just says, yep, make this trade. Even there is like some little warning that said there's big price impact on this. I think like it got into technicalities of this, that it wasn't actually slippage on the trade. It was price impact, which are kind of two different things. So the user was quoted a bad price, like you're going to trade 50 million for, less than 1 million. It showed that in the app. And that's not slippage. It's just like, you're going to lose money here. The person said yes. And so then when
insane. I saw that. That's insane. Because even when, you do small trades relatively, okay? I haven't traded 50 million myself yet, okay? But like when you trade a specific amount and you're about to like have like a price impact of 2%, okay? Yeah. Whether I did it on Curve, or whether I did it on CowSwap, or whether I did it on all kinds of places, it forces you to do this to press it, to have that little V check mark that did you realize that you're going to lose 2% on that? And this is like not even 99%. This is like 99.9% of the trade. So it's kind of insane. I actually also saw 0x not going to make it from DeFi Llama say that on Llama Swap, or however it's called, there's like a built-in protection against it, like that the interface will simply not allow you to do this trade, even if you, like, no matter what you do, it will actually, like, the interface will block it. Not only like Rabbi and all that, that it will just tell you, like, give you these warnings. It will simply say, no, you're not doing this kind of stuff here. So definitely consider, another reason to always consider DeFi Llama, not only for stats, but also for their services, whether it's the Llama AI or the Llama Swap, or what's it called? They also have like Llama Search. We know often like people take control of domains of people, of stuff like that, and they use like malicious links on the domains and stuff like that, and like when they find them on Google and stuff. And the DeFi Llama guys have been working a lot on like creating their own version of Llama Search, where they try to give maximum protection from this kind of stuff. So shout out to them and the great stuff they're building as well. And man, thank you for this explanation. I really enjoyed it. Anything you want to add, Tyler, by the way?
Just on that, it's like moving money around on chain. always be paranoid. I think always double check your stuff so you don't make mistakes like that. Or you know what, DAdvisoor, like maybe we're being too cautious, and that's why we're still working our jobs, not making the big bucks on shit. Maybe we're supposed to just be YOLOing it, and that's how you get a wallet that has like 400 million bucks in it. Because I think this person who lost 50 million bucks, they had like $400 million elsewhere in Aave, and they're in the process of moving it around. So clearly someone who made a lot of money somewhere.
Good point. Actually, it's a good point. What do we know?
maybe we're too conservative.
Who are we to judge? Exactly. Actually, when you say that, it's actually a good point. I will actually use the words of like an American podcaster that I often watch, called PBD, Patrick Bet-David. And he often has like these two sentences that I actually think that they can fit here. Future looks bright, 51%, and also 49%, only the paranoid survives. So it's always like, like stay optimistic and also be cautious. But just like Tyler also mentioned here, don't be too cautious, because if you be too cautious, nothing will ever happen. And Tyler, I really enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for it. Respect for preparing all that kind of stuff to share with me and with the community. Everyone, go follow Tyler at 0x7477 on X, vaults.fyi. At app.vaults.fyi. You can find some incredible info there on at least 1,008 known vaults that are already shared. Although we did get some alpha here about them actually having data about more than 3,000 over there, but slowly they will probably share more and more with us. And hope you guys enjoyed it. Give us some feedback. Tell us what kind of stuff you want us to cover and what you want us to talk about. Feel free to add questions. I know that at least one person asked me on X what's the address of the Telegram channel by Kaimi, and I gave it to him during the show. So already a success story for us on that front, Tyler. And looking forward for the next episode already, when you have some other interesting updates and facts and stats for us. And okay, let me just give another shout out to this week's Squid Pass winners on Leviathan News yesterday on the auction. Let me pop it up on the screen. And it is Rate Hopper AI. Let me open the website. At Rate Hopper AI, refinance DeFi debt with AI. Hop to better rates. Check out our Leviathan News pinned posts on Telegram and X to learn about Rate Hopper and what they do. Thank you guys for choosing Leviathan News. Really appreciate your support, and congratulations for winning the first auctions on your side. And of course, shout out to Arcos for his great video that everyone seems to really like. The guys from Alto really liked it today. I also use it as an outro. We'll try to do it now. Let's see if it works from where I prefer operating it, because usually it works better. If not, I will do it like in the beginning from the usual place. And guys, see you soon. Talk to you soon. Bye.
それはレバヤさんニュースだ。デセットライズと逃げろ。誰でもトトできる。誰でもスキルを稼げる。ガバナンスまである。中集権のメディアはもう終わりだ。
真相から